இது எங்க பார்ட்டு நான் வந்து பெரிய ஸ்க்ரீன். ஓகே. பட் இது வந்து மியூட் பண்றதுக்கு, இந்த இது பண்றதுக்கு. இதுல தான் சார், இந்த இடத்துல. நீங்க எதை பிரஸ் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க?
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I hope my voice is audible, Vardhan sir.
Yeah, it's audible, Shreya.
Okay, thanks. So, welcome everyone to today's webinar on demystifying labor code, industrial relation codes, and code on security. We are delighted to have Mr. Vardhan sir, our HR veteran carrying 30 plus years of expertise in labor laws and strategic compliances. As the Chief Consultation Officer at Aprajita Corporate Services Private Limited, he has played a key role in shaping the organization's flagship compliance management service since 2005, bringing unmatched clarity and practical insight to the discussion. Before starting the session, I would request everyone to post their questions under the Q&A sessions. So after our session gets over, Vardhan sir will be addressing it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Shreya. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir. Visible.
Right, okay. So we can start.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So very good afternoon, each one of you. And I think it has been a great journey since the 21st of November 2025, when the codes were introduced. Uh, I think we were conducting a series of webinars. We already covered code on wages and the occupational safety, health and working conditions code. And this is the final session in this series, where today we are planning to handle both the social security as well as the industrial relations code. Uh, so yeah, I think it has been a great learning opportunity for me. Besides this particular series, in fact, I had the opportunity to address many of the employers forums and other forums, so that I think I could get a fairly become conversant about the provisions of all the four codes. Uh, Probably uh, today, let me try to complete both these codes, social security and industrial relations. Uh, as far as industrial relations code is concerned, we may not have much of compliance per se. Probably many of you must be aware, the erstwhile Industrial Disputes Act, that was considered to be the backbone of the entire set of labor legislations, that will continue to be so. But we may not have regular transactional compliance activities under the Industrial Disputes Act like we have for other legislations like PF, ESI, or minimum wages, payment of wages, or gratuity and bonus, like that. So in that sense, it is slightly different, but this portion, industrial relations or industrial disputes, this is considered to be very, very active, right? Even in other areas, whether it is payment of wages or minimum wages or bonus or gratuity, probably the non-payment or any contravention in these legislations could end up in industrial disputes, right? So that is a possibility. In that sense, this portion is considered to be very, very active, in fact. So probably with this few things, let me get into my presentation for today, and I'll be handling the key changes under code on social security first. Then it will be under the industrial relations code. Yeah. So what you are seeing now on your screens is the set of 9 legislations. So starting from the Employees Compensation Act, ESA Act, PF, probably up to the Building and Other Construction Workers Act and the Unorganized Workers Social Security Act. So these 9 legislations are getting subsumed into one code called Code on Social Security 2020. And the next code is Industrial Relations Code, which will have the erstwhile Trade Unions Act 1926, the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946, and the Industrial Disputes Act 1947. So these are all the two codes, and these are all the 9 plus 3, 12 legislations getting subsumed into two codes. So totally, as we all know again, 29 legislations now becoming 4 codes. So 4 legislations under Code on Wages, 13 legislations under Occupational Safety Code, 9 legislations on Social Security, and 3 legislations on Industrial Relations. And under the Social Security, this is how the chapters are arranged. Again, starting from chapter 3 to chapter 9 and chapter 13, where you can see PF. So hitherto, the PF was governed by the Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952. So it was a standalone legislation. Now this will become part of the Code on Social Security. Similarly, ESI, now it will become part of Code on Social Security. Similarly, gratuity, maternity benefit, employees compensation, Social Security for building and other construction workers, Social Security for unorganized workers. And the 13th one is the current Employment Exchanges Act. Now it is now probably under chapter 13 that is titled as Employment Information and Monitoring, right? And employment exchanges would also be now known as career centers, right? Going forward under the codes. So this is how chapters are arranged under Code on Social Security, and under Industrial Relations Code. Chapter 3 is about trade unions, right? So the Trade Unions Act 1926, which was a standalone legislation, now becoming part of Industrial Relations Code. Then Standing Orders, Chapter 4. Earlier, it was governed by the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946. Now that is becoming a chapter and getting subsumed into Industrial Relations Code. Then other Chapter 5 to Chapter 12, these are all various chapters. Already it is there under Industrial Disputes Act, though that would continue to remain as separate chapters, except for Chapter 11, which is about Workers' Reskilling Fund, right? Earlier, there was no concept called Reskilling Fund, but under the codes, this is being introduced only with respect to the retrenchment of workers. Apart from paying the compensation, 15 days wages of the individual employee who is retrenched is to be paid by the employer to the fund called Workers' Reskilling Fund. It is more to utilize the fund for reskilling, or probably to make the retrenched workers employable in future. That is the idea. I just move on. Yeah. So now we will start with Social Security, where we have PF, ESI, gratuity, maternity benefit, all those areas. But again, there are not much change as far as these legislations are concerned because of the codes. But the definition for the term wages, since it is redefined, this will have impact on these areas. Again, let us just look through certain examples how this could impact before getting into the highlight of the changes in the codes. So what you are seeing on your screens is again a simple salary structure with monthly gross of 18,000. We know again the exclusion part under the wages cannot go beyond 50%. If it goes beyond 50%, then the excess amount, the amount which is more than the 50%, that could be added back to the wage part. So added with the basic for all that purpose. So effectively, at least 50% of the monthly gross would be considered as quantum of wages for any purpose. So that is the idea. It should the wage portion shall work out to at least 50%. That is one thing, and this wage portion shall be equivalent to or more than the minimum rates of wages applicable to a particular employee. So these are all the key points with respect to the redefined term wage because of the introduction of codes. Let us see what are all the nitty-gritties on this particular definition for wages. So the exclusion part, it should not go beyond 50%. If it goes beyond 50%. Then the excess amount will be added back to the wage part. So that I think the new term which is being now used is the add back wage. In case if in a particular structure, the exclusion part works out to 60%, then the extra 10% that would be added back to the wage part actually. So that is how it is going to be. That is now considered as add back wage. So the wage, the core wage part, it shall be or probably otherwise stated greater than or equal to minimum wages also. So one is it should work out to at least 50% core wage part. Number two is it shall be greater than or equal to the minimum wages prescribed for that person, right? But another challenge could be the total remuneration. So we must, in the first place, know what is the total quantum. So only if I know the 100% of wages, then I can ensure the core wage part works out at least 50%, right? This I mainly because under the exclusion, under class A, we have that bonus payment, which is an annual payment. And under class C, we have the employer's contribution towards provident fund, towards pension fund, and the interest accrued thereon. And under class J and class K, we have both gratuity and the retrenchment compensation. So as far as I'm concerned, all these four components, these are all not monthly payments. Ideally, this should not become a part of the 100% wages, probably while determining the 100% wages or the total remuneration. That is probably, that could be one factor for a slight confusion for the people to understand. So if it is not already brought under a part of these classes, then I think there shall not be any confusion. So that is how it is. But still, even in some of the FAQs released by the authorized sources, still they include these portions. But for my purpose for this session, I consider only the regular monthly payment, the monthly gross salary as 100% wages, right? So bonus is essentially an annual payment. I don't think that can be considered as part of monthly wage. Number two, the PF contribution, employer's contribution towards PF, employer's contribution towards pension, and the interest accrued thereon. I think that is not again part of payroll processing at all, right? Same is the position with respect to retrenchment compensation and the gratuity, because these two are payments which would be made only at the time of cessation of service, not in between. So ideally, I don't think that could be made as a part of the 100% wages. So again, with this idea only, I'm proceeding, at least for our discussions today. And yes, there could be a challenge still in segregating the core wage part and the exclusion part. Again, even leaving out these four components, A, C, J, and K. So the rest, there are only 4 or 5 allowances, right? Conveyance allowance is there, overtime allowance is there, some paid to defray any special expenditure, that is there, overtime allowance is there. So, but there could be n number of allowances. I think all those allowances are not listed there. But the idea is when some payment is made, which is contingent in nature, that could be treated as allowance and that should get excluded ideally, right? And whatever is paid universally, necessarily and ordinarily, like basic or DA or retaining allowance in case of seasonal industries, only those payments would be considered as wage part. So irrespective of the number of components you have in your salary structure, you must be very clearly able to categorize it into two. One is the wage part, that is the inclusion part, or the non-wage part, or the non-UNO part, or the allowances part, right? Because these two categories are very, very important for us to ensure compliance. So ultimately, because one company can have 10 components, depending upon the nature of industry and the nature of employment performed by that particular individual. Another company can have, say, 5 components or even 15 components. So that could be decided based on the nature of industry and the nature of employment a particular person performs. So what is ultimately required is we need to categorize the number of salary components, monthly salary components into the wage part and the non-wage part, or the UNO part and the non-UNO part. So we may have to consider the UNO part, and we should ensure that UNO part works out to at least 50%. And the non-UNO part is restricted to 50%. It cannot go beyond 50%. So that is how the idea is. Let us be very clear about it. Once we are clear about this, then I think for working purpose, whether it is applying this for calculating PF or calculating ESI, or for bonus, gratuity, or for even overtime calculation, or for leave encashment, it should be very, very easy. That should be a normal process only, right? I move on now. So now this is very specifically with respect to PF. As I said, there is no much change as far as PF is concerned. And of course, the existing Provident Fund scheme will continue to operate, govern us till such time a new scheme is framed under the codes. That is what is given. Now it will be applicable to all establishments. Earlier, I think besides mentioning the threshold of 20 or more employees, the nature of industry was also mentioned for deciding the applicability of the erstwhile Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act. But now, regardless of the industry type, right, if in a particular establishment, if 20 or more employees are employed, then the PF Act or the PF portion under Code on Social Security would be applicable now. It is very clear. So only factor to be considered is 20 or more employees. So when we say 20 or more employees, this will include direct employees as well as the contract workers. So both would be considered. And this will also include not just one unit. If the establishment has multiple departments or branches, all those branches would be considered as one single establishment. So all put together, if there are 20 or more employees, then yes, this PF portion, PF chapter under Code on Social Security would become applicable. And the point number 2 is on again wages. We already discussed on that. So at least 50% of the total remuneration. So for our purpose, we will consider it as 50% of the monthly gross. So that is the standardized definition, not only for this purpose, even for any other purpose under all the 4 codes. That is how it is going to be, except for payment of wages and equal remuneration, where we would consider some of the allowances also part of wages. Otherwise, for all the other areas, at least 50% of the monthly total gross should be treated as wages. If the exclusion part goes beyond 50%, then the excess amount will be added back to wage part. That is how it is going to be. And again, the third point is on the salary ceiling for PF. That continues. We know it is currently 15,000. Yes, that continues to be there. It is not changed. But there is a request from many of the unions to revise this salary ceiling. And I think there is a proposal to revise it. I think some people say it is 25,000. Some people say it is 30,000. We have to wait for the government gazette notification. So for the first time, when a person comes to employment, if the salary, when we say salary, the wage part in the monthly gross, if it goes beyond 15,000, right, then that person will be considered to be excluded employee. That person need not be covered under PF, right? But still, if the management is willing, then they can cover this individual also under PF. It is possible, right? I think many of the companies follow that. That is number 1. Number 2, then there is again one more option. The contributions can be limited to 15,000, or contributions can be made on the actual salary even if it goes beyond 15,000. That option is also there for the employers. And in case if a person is retired and he gets his all his accumulations, PF accumulations settled, then he again takes up employment. Then that person need not be covered under PF. So he will also be considered as excluded employee. That is number 2. Number 3, third category is the apprentices under the Apprentices Act or apprentices under the certified standing orders, the orders of the company. So they are not considered to be employees. They are also considered to be excluded employees, and they need not be covered under PF. That is how it is. So the point is, this salary ceiling of 15,000 for PF still continues, right? Till such time we get another notification revising the quantum. And yeah, so because of this 50% rule, so the net take home, sometimes it can come down in case if in some of the companies, if in the current salary structure, if the wage portion works out to less than 30%, then yes, they may have to change their salary structure. So in which case the wage portion would work out to 50%. There is a possibility the net to take home, because the contribution towards PF or other aspects could become higher. So which would eventually bring down the net take home. That is possible, right? But in the longer interest, it would be beneficial for the individual employees. And the next point, the fifth point on your screens, it is about the PF benefits to be extended for the unorganized workers or gig workers or the platform workers, right? I think one of the major ideas for bringing in these codes is to make available the social security features for the people in the unorganized sector, right? So probably roughly we have the working population around approximately coming to 55 crores, of which only 10% is in the organized sector. That is 5 crore or 5.5 crore workers only in the organized sector. And whatever legislations we had earlier prior to 21/11/2025, those legislations were more made applicable only to people in the organized sector, right? But people in the unorganized sector, like these gig workers or platform workers or unorganized workers,
Hello, sir.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Your
Yeah.
voice was not audible. That's why. Now it's audible, sir.
It's audible?
Yeah, audible.
Right. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. So one of the main ideas under the codes is to extend at least the social security benefits to the people in the unorganized sector or the unorganized workers or the gig workers or the platform workers. So these terms are defined under the code on social security, right? So who is a wage worker? Who is a self-employed person? So who is a home-based worker? Who is a gig worker? Who is a platform worker? All these terminologies are defined. The main idea is to at least give them some recognition and to extend social security for these people. So one of the social security benefits is PF, right? I think I think they may have to have their Aadhaar card proper because they need to seed Aadhaar for getting these benefits. And limitation of 5 years, the last but one point, to initiate inquiries under reduced 25% deposit. Okay, so both in case of PF and ESI, right? Now when the inspectors come, facilitators, when they come for inspection, they can do the inspection for the last 5 years. They cannot go beyond that. So that is going to be the norm going forward. And in case if they prefer any appeal, so 25% of what is claimed by the authorities, I think they can pay that as deposit for proceeding with the appeal. Now it ranges up to 75%, right? But now under the courts, it is made as 25%. And in case if a particular establishment wants to maintain their own trust, maintain their PF account, they can get the exemption, provided they must have at least minimum of 100 persons working in their establishments, and so that they can make the application and get their establishment exempted, right? Of course, they will also be subject to the provisions of the PF Act or the PF portion under the Code on Social Security, and there will be a separate wing in the RPFC called for doing the examination for these exempted establishments. So these are all certain points with respect to PF. I would say probably nothing new, but except mainly for the change in the definition of the term wage and its impact on PF also. I move on. So this is the example how this wage definition could impact PF. I have two examples here. So the first one is the monthly gross comes to 15,000, right? And exclusion part works out to exactly 7,500, which is all right. So the inclusion part or the wage part, the UNO part is also 7,500, which is again all right, right? So for this case, the PF contributions ought to be made on 7,500, right? So absolutely no issues in that. And on your right, in the another example, I have put the monthly gross as 30,000, 30, of which the wage portion works out to 21,000. So 70%, much above 50%. So the exclusion part is much less than 50%. So this is all right. This is in line with the new definition of the term wages. Now the employer has a choice. They can make the contributions, PF contributions on the entire 21,000, or they can limit it to 15,000, which is the current ceiling. That option is there. So that is how it is. Even already if the contributions are made on the actual salary, which is above the 50% mark, if the management wants to reduce it to the salary ceiling, they can do that. Technically, no issues under the provisions of the PF Act earlier, or probably under the provisions of the courts, they can do it now. But if they had already committed this to the employees in the appointment order that they would be making contributions on the actual salary, then that they are bound. Both the parties are bound by that, right? So for making this change, then they may have to get the concurrence from the individual employees concerned. Only then they can do that. They cannot resort to this unilaterally, right? So from the statute perspective, absolutely no issues. They can make the contributions in future, restricting it to the salary ceiling. That is possible. Technically, no issues on that. But since this has been committed already to the employees through by way of probably the contract of employment or the appointment order, then I think they may have to get the concurrence of the individual employee also to reduce it. Otherwise, it cannot be done. So it is one of the conditions of service that is now being changed. So that needs concurrence from both the parties. That is the idea. Now, what you are seeing is on ESI, almost the core areas remain unchanged, but some of the points, I think there are few changes with respect to ESI. Again, the new definition for the term wage, it is there. That 50% rule, it is there, equally applicable for ESI also. Probably I would like to draw your attention to the third point, the expanded net. Many employees whose gross salary was about 21,000, they would have gone out earlier, but they may now fall under the ESI net because their wages, as per the redefined one, might be below the threshold. So more number of persons can become probably covered under the ESI part, right? That is possible because they change in the definition of the term wages. And the coverage is extended nationwide across all of India. And we know again, earlier there was the concept of the notified area. Only for that area, I think if the establishments are there, then the applicability for the establishments we would check. Then the applicability for the individual employee we would do the checking and cover the individuals probably as per the provisions. But now I think extended nationwide. So no specific notification is required for mentioning the area for which the ESI facilities are extended. Now it is extended across the country. And mandatorily, yes, the threshold is 10. If there are 10 or more employees, then the ESI part under Code on Social Security would be applicable. But in case of hazardous industries, or kind of life-threatening activity, dangerous activity is carried out in particular establishment, there even that 10 threshold number is not required. Even if there is only one worker, one employee employed, then I think the ESA would be applicable there. And coverage is also possible going forward for ESA, even if there are less than 10 employees employed in an establishment, but more than 50% of the employees are willing, and the management is also willing, then they can voluntarily cover their establishment under ESA and extend the benefits to the employees. But later, in case of voluntary coverage, later if the management or the employees want to withdraw from the facilities, they can withdraw the ESA coverage also, right? That is possible. And for plantations, yes, now the medical facilities are extended for the employees working in the plantations through the provisions of the Plantations Labour Act. So there itself, the mandate is given for the owners of the plantations to extend medical facilities. So it was not made applicable, ESI. But now it is not mandatorily applicable, but the plantation owners will have options. They can continue to provide extended medical facilities themselves, as mentioned in the Plantations Labour Act, or they can opt for ESA facilities. So they can cover their plantation under ESA so that the medical facilities are extended to the plantation employees. And with respect to mines, earlier it was not applicable, but now if there are 10 or more employees, the threshold is there, then the mines are to be covered under ESI. And yes, we all know, like we had 15,000 under PF. For ESI, 21,000 is the ceiling, right? That ceiling remains. As of now, it remains. And yes, there is a proposal to revise this also, but let us wait for the Gazette notification from the government, right? Till such time, it is going to be 21,000 only. And the presumption as to the accident while commutation between residence and place of employment, now by default, it will be considered as employment injury. Earlier, it was not so. It should be proved by applying the theory of notional extension. But now, by default, it would be considered as employment injury. But if it is not so, then the otherwise is to be proved by the employer. That is how it is going to be. And in case if a particular employee who is ought to be covered under ESI but not covered, or he's covered but the contributions in respect of him is not paid, then even then the ESI corporation will continue to extend the medical facilities, but whatever expenditure incurred, that would be recovered from the employer concerned, right? So that is the last point. So these are all certain points with respect to ESI. So for ESI, again, we all know it is 3.25 by the employer and 0.75 by the employee, and the contributions are to be remitted within 15 days. Earlier, it was 21 days. So that continues. That continues. Similarly, for PF, 12%, each by the employer and the employee. That continues to be there. And the last date for remitting the contributions, it is the timeline is the same, 15th of the subsequent month. So that continues to be. So unless and otherwise there is a specific change notified, the same thing will continue in respect of both ESI and PF. I move on. So this is one sample again for impact on ESI because of the change in the definition of the term wage. Basic DA and HRA. These are all the three components. And monthly gross comes to 24,000. Right. So prior to 2111, yes. So the wage of the individual would be considered as 24,000, which is more than 21,000. So this person would not be covered under ESI prior to 2111-2025. But for the same salary structure, after the implementation of codes, HRA is not considered to be part of wages. So the quantum of wage would come down to 18,000, which is less than 21,000. So this person needs to be covered under ESI. So completely the position changes because of the change in the definition of the term wage. On your right side, extreme right, the example 2, same three components only. Quantum alone changes. 8,000, 4,000 and 4,000. So total monthly gross comes to 16,000. Earlier, this person would have been covered under ESI, right? And contributions would have been made on entire 16,000, right? But for the same structure, since HRE is not part of wages, the quantum of wage for the purpose of ESI would be 12,000 only. And it is sufficient if the contributions are made on 12,000, both employers' contribution as well as the employees' contribution. So that is going to be the change for the second example. So this is how the impact is because of the change in the definition for the term wage. I move on. Now, yes, gratuity. We all know, again, for a person to become eligible for gratuity, I think that person should have completed 5 years of continuous service. That continues, right? That continues. But with respect to the working journalist, it is not 5 years, but it is 3 years of continuous service. That is sufficient. And when it comes to the question of fixed term employee, right? Now, the fixed term employment is permitted both under Code on Social Security and under Industrial Relations Code, right? Minimum will be 1 year, right? So if the person has worked for 1 year, then I think that fixed term employee would be eligible for the gratuity on a proportionate basis. So that is one change, major change brought through the courts. FTEs, fixed term employees, now entitled to pro rata gratuity based on the length of their contracts. So minimum 1 year, otherwise we will not be able to calculate it, right? So again, there could be a legal question of what is 1 year? Should it be exact 365 days or 240 days of work in a continuous period of 12 months? All those questions will arise. But yes, if a person has completed 1 year, then he will become eligible for gratuity. This is only with respect to the fixed term employees. So that is extended through the courts. And wage basis for gratuity also same. So again, the 50% rule will be there, right? Now, interesting. Employee under Code on Social Security, that includes contract workers also. So they will also become entitled for gratuity. Of course, the liability will first lie on the contractor. Only if the contractor fails, the liability will fall on the principal employer. But yes, they also should complete 5 years of continuous service. Only then they will become eligible. But in some places, I saw that they could also be considered as fixed term persons, so that they would also become entitled for gratuity if they complete 1 year. But that needs a confirmation. That is not an authentic source. But there are, particularly when the contract worker is engaged, he is employed for a specific period, like direct employment of fixed term employees by the principal employer. If the contract workers are also employed for a specific period of 1 year or 2 years, they say they could also be considered as fixed term employees, for also considered to be employer. That is very clearly confirmed through the courts. So if their term is for a fixed period, even though they are contract workers, they could also be considered as fixed term. Of course, I'm just sharing this for your information, but this needs a confirmation by the authority concerned. And as far as the calculation, yes, the same formula continues. So to arrive at the per day wage, the last drawn monthly wage is to be divided by 26. So that will give the 1 day wage, and that needs to be multiplied by 15 days, and that is into 15. Again, that is to be multiplied by the number of completed years of service. So that is the same formula that would continue with there. And the timeline, again, it is going to be the same. Within 1 month, 30 days, once the gratuity becomes payable, the employer has to make this payment to the eligible employee. And the cap of 20 lakh, that also continues, right? So if the cap, as per the calculation, if the total gratuity goes beyond 20 lakh, the employer can restrict the payment to 20 lakh. It is possible. But if the employer wants to make the actual amount, even if it goes beyond 20 lakh, he can make the payment. But over and above 20 lakh, it will be considered as income. and it is subjected to income tax. So that is the change. Otherwise, yes, same ceiling continues. The cap of 20 lakh continues for gratuity. Yeah, this is one example. Again, because of the change in the definition of wages. So total monthly gross comes to 30,000, right? And the basic and DA comes to 12,000. So normally we would calculate gratuity on 12,000 only, right? But this 12,000 is less than 50% of the monthly gross. So the 50% mark is 15,000. So going forward, I think for this salary structure, at least for 15,000, treating the wage quantum as 15,000, the gratuity calculation is to be made. Right, so 15,000 divided by 26 into 15 into number of years of completed years of service. That is how the formula is. I move on now. Yeah, so this is with respect to maternity benefit. Almost the same eligibility condition continues. So the individual woman employee should have completed 80 days of work in the 12 months immediately preceding the expected date of delivery. That is how it is, that 80 days that continues. And yes, the maternity benefit is, it is 26 weeks, almost 6 months, right? Leave with wage. So that is what is extended as maternity benefit for the first 2 deliveries. Even for the subsequent 3rd delivery and 4th delivery, yes, they are entitled, but not for 26 weeks. You will be entitled for 12 weeks, right? And the maternity benefit is extended to the commissioning mother and adopting mother also. And for them, both for them, commissioning mother or adopting mother, they will have 12 weeks as maternity benefit. Of course, 12 weeks leave with wage, right? And in case of medical termination of pregnancy or the miscarriage, 6 weeks is to be given with wage. And if the woman employee undergoes family planning or operation, tuberculosis, then 2 weeks of leave should be given with wages, right? And in all these cases, additionally, if some illness in connection with pregnancy or miscarriage or family planning is suffered by the woman employee, and if she produces proper medical certificate, then additionally 1 month leave is to be given by the employer concerned with wages, right? And work from home, if that is possible for the nature of employment of that particular woman employee, then beyond all this 26 weeks, additional 1 month, beyond all this, if the management is willing, they can extend this provision to the woman employee. So that is also mentioned under the Maternity Benefit Act. Even earlier it was there, now it is found in the Code on Social Security. And the creche facility, yes, it is to be provided if there are 50 or more employees, irrespective of whether that establishment is covered under ESI or not. The creche facility is to be provided. And the impact of quantum of benefit because of redefined definition for the term wages. Yes, I think you are seeing it on your screens now. So the monthly gross is 21,000, right? So earlier the overtime was not considered to be part of wages. So for this salary structure, only 18,000 would be considered as wages, and it would be paid for the number of days of leave, maternity, as maternity benefit. But after the implementation of codes, even HRA will not be considered as part of wages. So only in this type of benefit, no, I think the quantum is coming down for an employee, right? So HRA is not considered as part of wages, and overtime already not part of wages. So for this salary structure, the monthly gross would be considered as only 12,000. So for every month leave, 12,000 will be paid as maternity benefit to that individual woman employee. So that is how it would be. So because of the change in the definition of the term wages, this could be the impact. Yeah. So there are other areas, employees compensation. So the erstwhile Workmen Compensation Act 1923, later it became known as Employees Compensation Act. It is there again, not much change, almost the same. And the presumption as to accident during commutation between residence and office, whatever we discuss for ESI, the same principle continues for this purpose also. And employment information. So erstwhile Employment Exchanges Act, it would be applicable if there are 25 or more employees in a for a private establishment in private sector, right? That threshold is now coming down to 20, right? But I could see different number in the rules, draft rules issued under the central rules, but that needs a confirmation. They have mentioned there as 50. So that needs a confirmation, but under the codes, they have mentioned as only 20, right? Otherwise, yes, the vacancy is to be notified. And once the vacancy is filled, that information should be passed on to the employment exchanges. And it need not be a physical office going forward, right? It can be a platform, and where both job seekers and the job providers will have accessibility, so that they will get information regarding the employment availability. So that is how it is going to be. And yes, the last point on this screen is about the social security to gig workers, platform workers, and other unorganized workers. As I said in the beginning, so you can see I have also mentioned the section numbers where the terminologies: gig worker, home-based worker, platform worker, employed, self-employed worker, and wage worker, right? So they are all now defined. Slight difference is there. Almost the base is same. Slight difference is there. So they are all falling under the unorganized category, right? So they will also be extended social security benefit. But of course, we have to wait for the schemes to be framed for them. Only then we will come to know. So one thing which is very clear is they need to have valid Aadhaar card to register themselves. So those who are more than 16 years of age, 16, they can register themselves using the portal meant for this purpose. So that is how it is. I move on. Yeah, so this is about the assessment, the inspection. We already discussed limitation of 5 years is there for both ESI and PF. It cannot go beyond 5 years. So if a person comes for inspection today, the inspector cum facilitator, last 5 years, yes, in case if there is non-contribution, then they can point out those things and they can claim that, but not beyond that. And role of inspector, as we discussed in our earlier sessions, yes, it is changing from inspector to inspector cum facilitator. So they will, in the first place, facilitate as to the compliance, both the management as well as the employees. Then in case if there is a violation, contravention, then I think they will give some time for the employer to set it right, rectify. Still, if it is not done, only then they will resort to prosecution, right? And yes, there is an increase, huge increase in the quantum of penalty, and the idea of compounding of offense, that is also introduced. So for the first time, if the offense is the punishment is only punishment of fine is mentioned for a particular offense, then I think the employer can make the 50% of maximum fine prescribed for that offense to the officer fixed for this purpose, and he can come out of the offense. But this will be available for the first time only, not for the subsequent times. And the last point is Aadhaar number. Aadhaar number, it is going to be very, very important. So probably it is better we make getting the Aadhaar details of the new recruit as well as his family members or her family members, so that in case if situation arises for making the benefits payment to or to the nominees of the employee, only if the Aadhaar numbers are available, only then we can do that, right? So it is better we make it as part of the recruitment kit, getting the Aadhaar details of the individual employee. I move on. Yeah, I think we have come to the end of Code on Social Security. Now it is industry relations, right? The term industry, now I think the triple test formula, popularly called as, under this was set under the judgment by Supreme Court in Bangalore Water Supply and Sewerage Board case as early in 1978. So there must be a systematic activity, and the systematic activity must be carried on with the cooperation of employer and the workers. And finally, the activity must be for the purposes to fulfill the human wants or wishes. If these three ingredients are present, then that place would be considered as industry, right? So that is how it is. Yeah, I think practically we are going ahead with this only, but only now it is finding place in the statute book. And the institutions involved in providing domestic services or involved in charitable, social, or philanthropic services, they are all excluded. They are not considered to be industries, right? And concerted mass casual leave. If more than 50% of the workers, if they go on strike, go on casual leave, that would be considered as strike. So the terminology strike is now, the definition is slightly changed. It will now include the mass casual leave also, right? So this is considered to be illegal. So action can be taken against all those persons who went on mass casual leave. So that is how it is going to be. And willful go slow. If a person resorts to this, then that could be considered as unfair labor practice. Again, the action can be taken by the employer if some employee resorts to willful go slow. And permission for layoff, the earlier very popular chapter 5B. So this will be applicable only for factories, mines, and plantations. So if earlier the threshold was 100, if there are 100 or more workers, then those factories, mines, or plantations which would want to go on a layoff, retrenchment, or closure, I think the permission was needed for them to get it from the authority concerned. But now, instead of 100, that threshold is getting increased to 300. So up to 299, permission may not be required, right? So 299, that is, once it touches 300 or more, then for them, yes, the permission is required. Now it is dealt with under Chapter 10, Section 77(1) of the Industry Relations Code. I think this was the main bone of contention for the unions to oppose the implementation of the labor codes earlier. And yeah, I think we have two bilateral forums. The one is the Works Committee, another one is the Grievance Redressal Committee. I think it will be among the workers and the management. So there are conditions. Again, if there are more than 100 workers, then that particular industrial establishment should have a Works Committee. And if there are more than 20 workers, then that establishment should have a Grievance Redressal Committee, right? So apart from the bipartite bodies for settling the disputes, we have the tripartite bodies. So the Conciliation Officer, Board of Conciliation, Labor Court, Industrial Tribunal, and National Tribunal. But now I think the labor courts are now changed into industrial tribunals, right? And there will be two members. One is the judicial member, another one is the administrative member. So we will continue to have the conciliation officer. We will continue to have industrial tribunal. We will continue to have national tribunal. These are all tripartite bodies to settle the industrial disputes. But we may not have board of conciliation. We may not have labor courts anymore, right? And these tribunals will be, at least they will have two members, one judicial member and administrative member. The purpose is to speed up the process of resolving the disputes. That is the idea. And I think reskilling fund, I think this concept was not there earlier, but now introduced through courts, but only with respect to the retrenched workers. So apart from paying the retrenchment compensation, which is again 15 days wages for every complete year of service. So another 15 days wages, mere 15 days wages of the last drawn salary of the individual employee who is retrenched, that could be paid by the employer concerned to the reskilling fund. As I said in the beginning, the purpose is to reskill the retrenched workers so that to make them employable in future, right? And the maximum number of members of the Grievance Redressal Committee, it was 6 prior to implementation of courts. Now it is made as 10, right? And Works Committee, I think there is no change. That is the reason I have not brought it here. But for both Works Committee and the Grievance Redressal Committee, if there are sufficient number of women workers engaged in that industrial establishment, then I think women workers should also be part of the committee in both the cases, Works Committee as well as Grievance Redressal Committee. And for strike and lockout, minimum of 14 days notice required, maximum of 60 days. Earlier it was 42. The maximum was 46 weeks. 14 days to 42 days earlier. Now it is 14 days to 60 days. So if the workman wants to go on strike, then notice is to be issued. And after issuing the notice, within 14 days, the workers cannot go on strike. Only after the expiry of the 14th day, they can go on strike. But they have to do it before the expiry of 60th day. Right. So between 14th day and the 60th day, they can go on strike if no specific date is mentioned. But during this period, any specific date is mentioned for going on strike, then they have to necessarily go on strike only on that day, not otherwise. Right. Same is the case for lockout. So like a strike, which is the weapon in the hands of the workmen, lockout is the weapon in the hands of the employers. Same principle only, 14 days and 60 days. That will be there for both the cases. And the time period for filing grievance application, it was 3 years. That is now getting reduced to 1 year. And time period for raising industrial dispute before the conciliation official, again it was 3 years. That is getting reduced to 2 years. And now it is standing orders. So earlier, if an industrial establishment, if it has 100 or more workers, then the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act would become applicable, right? That threshold again is increased to 30, right? But now standing orders would be part of the Industrial Relations Code, right? So up to 299, I think no mandate for the employers to draft the set of standing orders and getting it certified. But of course, there will be a model set of standing orders. It will be issued only by the central government, right? So if they want to adopt the model standing orders, they can do so. But once they touch the number of 300, then it will become applicable. Then they need to necessarily draft a set of standing orders, get it approved, certified by the authority concerned, right? But still, if they don't do that, but if they want to adopt the model standing orders, it is possible, but they may have to send a clear communication to that effect to the authority concerned, who will in turn approve it. Then they can have the model standing orders as their conditions of service in their establishment. And earlier, yes, apart from central government, the other appropriate governments, state governments would also had the model standing orders. Now it will be only by the central government. And the concept of deemed approval is also introduced in case if the draft standing orders, it is submitted to the authority concerned, and if there is no response for the 60 days, then it is deemed approved. So they need not get the approval physically from the authority concerned if the authority is not responding for the 60 days after receiving the application along with the draft set of standing orders. And fixed term employment, we discussed already. It is introduced. It is there in both Industrial Relations Code. It is there and Code on Social Security, right? And trade union, earlier there was no provision for compulsory recognition of trade unions, right? So registration of trade union, it will be taken care of by the provisions of the Trade Unions Act 1926. Now it is the provisions of the chapter under Industrial Relations Code. But the recognition of trade union, that should be done by the employer, right? But it was not a mandate. So except in 1 or 2 states earlier, now this is now made as a mandate, right? So if there is only one trade union, sole trade union, then that union shall be recognized by the management. But in case if there are multiple trade unions, more than one, then the one trade union which has the support of more than 50% of the workers, that union shall be recognized. But if there are multiple trade unions and none of the trade unions has the support of more than 50% of the workers, then the liability responsibility is on the employer to form a negotiating council. So, of course, what is the procedure to be followed? It is there mentioned in the set of rules and the codes. But it will be in the ratio of one representative for every 20% of workers. So, which means at least 5 persons will be there in the negotiating council. So, ultimately, there will be some body available for negotiation with the management. It will be either the recognized union or it could be the recognized negotiating council. And provision for compounding of offense, we discussed already. For the first time, it will be available, not for the subsequent times. Yeah, so these are all certain aspects in your screens you are seeing, which are common for all the 4 codes. Deemed approval concept is introduced, compounding of offense is introduced, maintenance of records electronically, it can be done, and online submission of returns and applications, it is possible. And the inspectors now would be known as inspectors cum facilitators. So they will first facilitate both the management and the workers, only then resort to prosecution in case if there is a contravention. I think we have come to the end. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Now, if you have any queries, Shreya, it is back to you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for the session.
Yeah.
So there are many questions. I'll take few of them.
Yeah, please.
First question, leave encashment to all employees above 30 days. Is it compulsory?
If they are covered under the occupational safety code, it is compulsory.
Retrenchment compensation is paid back to the employee who was retrenched. If yes, what is the time limit and condition?
Retrenchment compensation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is to be paid to him before he gets relieved, actually. So along with the relieving order, it should be paid.
Okay. Next question. As per wage code basis, basic DA retaining allowances as conclusion component. Can you brief what is the component to be considered under retaining allowance?
No, retaining allowance is something which is paid in seasonal industries. Probably in my earlier sessions, I explained this. Particularly with respect to the seasonal industries, during the non-season period, the employer would continue to make some payment, which is considered to be the retaining allowance. The idea is to retain those workers for the next season. Otherwise, they will not come for work next season. Right. So that is considered to be retaining allowance. And the nature of such payment is considered to be one which is universal, necessary, and ordinary. No payment, like basic and DA. So if that payment is made, then that also needs to be included in the wage part, actually. Right. So both along with the basic and the DNS allowance, payment, and that very much falls under the wage part, core wage part. That will not fall under the exclusion part.
Okay, sir. The next question. If a person is eligible for ESIC and not PF, will we still be complained if we deduct ESIC and not PF?
Come again?
If a person is eligible for ESIC and not PF, will we still be complained if we deduct ESIC and not PF?
The question is not clear.
Yeah.
Why do we mix up both ESI and PF? I'm not very sure. But if the individual employee is not coverable under ESI, then he or she cannot be made as insured person under ESI. It is not possible. That is possible under PF, but not possible under ESI.
Okay.
That is the position prior to implementation of codes, post the implementation also.
Okay, sir. There's one more question. Whether employer, PF, ESIC, insurance deductions, gratuity, variable pay, and pay for performance components included in CTC can be excluded from wages under the Code on Wages 2019.
Okay. So again, my point is, as I explained, no, irrespective of the number of components you have in your monthly payroll, you need to categorize it into two. That is what ultimately required. So what is the UNO payment? What is the non-UNO payment? What is the inclusion? What is the exclusion? That requires a little bit of probably legal interpretation is required. Only then you can very clearly come up with this categorization. Once that is done, then it is easy. So when you say special allowance, I would not, when the very term allowance will normally take it to exclusion part only. In case if the nomenclature alone special allowance, whereas it is in the matter of fact it is a kind of UNO payment, then that should wage part only. So that is the reason I said some legal interpretation is required that depends upon the purpose and nature of payment. And it is better we stick to regular monthly payments instead of, I'm not very sure, I think you talked about performance. So if it is quarterly, if it is half yearly, or if it is annual, make it out of payroll processing, right? And it is always better so that the monthly gross would be very clear, and you can consider that monthly gross as total remuneration. Then you can ensure what is the UNO part, what is the non-UNO part, and the ensure UNO part is at least working out to 50%.
Understood, sir. So there's one more question. What about the non-ESIC ML benefit? Can it be paid based on the new wage code? Existing practice is fixed gross considered for ML benefit calculation.
No. See, if a woman employee is covered under ESI, the maternity benefit she will get only through ESI. Employer need not pay. Only for non-ESI women employees. Assume that the wage part of a woman employee goes beyond 21,000. So she goes out of ESI coverage. For those persons, the provision under maternity benefit will become applicable. If the woman employee is covered under ESI, then the maternity benefit will be extended only by ESI corporation, not by the employer. Yeah.
Understood. Are working professionals like consultants also applicable under gratuity for FTEs?
If they are truly professionals, no, they are not employees. So they will not be entitled for gratuity. They will be paid monthly fee or annual fee. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maternity benefit wage payment is applicable only to, no, this is the same question, non-ESIC. Creche facility, 50 or more employee means women employees only or including men. If company hired only men worker and the strength is 60, then is it applicable to?
See, in some code, it is mentioned as employees only. It is not very specifically saying women employees, right? But under the rules, in some of the states, they have mentioned as women employees. In some states, they have mentioned as merely employees. To where they have very specifically mentioned as women employees, if that state government happens to be the appropriate government for a particular company, then they can make a crutch available only if there are 50 or more women employees, right? Otherwise, yes, I think irrespective, because it is becoming more gender neutral. So it is not very specific to women employees. So irrespective of whether it is men or women, if there are 50 or more employees, then crutch is to be made available. That is how it is moving, but there is slight difference in some places.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Both GRC and work committee required in a company, or can anyone be necessary for an establishment?
Both are required, but in my understanding, I think works committee, the industrial establishments are forming. GRC, they are not doing. Both are required, mandate.
Yes, sir. Already exemption for standing orders will survive, or even it is becoming applicable for IT companies in Karnataka as per labor codes.
Now it would be applicable unless and otherwise specifically exemption is given.
Okay. Can paid leaves be lapsed?
Sorry.
Can paid leaves be lapsed?
So under occupational safety code, it is not possible. Right. So I think maximum of 30 days can be carried over to the next year. But over and above 30 days, if some number of days of unavailable leave is left, earlier that would get lapsed prior to 2111. But now that is to be encashed. So that is the main change. But it is not so with respect to those establishments which are governed by the respective states, Shops and Establishments Act. So we may have to go ahead as per the provisions of the Shops and Establishments Act. It is possible that may get lapsed. Yeah.
What is the meaning of NTH salary?
NTH is net take home. Gross deductions. After the deductions, whatever is remaining, that is what is referred to as net take home salary, net pay.
Okay. Is the framework of gratuity published? If yes, from when it is applicable?
Already it is applicable. Gratuity.
Okay. Can we allow leave accumulation to 60 days, post which is excess can be considered for encashment during a year end?
As per the governing legislation, what is the maximum number allowed? That is to be seen. So we can restrict to that number.
Okay. Should gratuity be paid to superannuated employees on FTC?
Superannuated employees, once again, if they are rehired, yes, if they complete the required qualifying years of service, then they are to be paid gratuity, right? Normally, it will be if they complete again another continuous period of 5 years, they would become entitled. But would they be considered as fixed term employees, or would they be considered as normal employees requiring them to complete 5 years? That remains to be seen based on the order given to that person. Automatically, these persons will not be considered as fixed term employees. Depending upon the clauses mentioned in the appointment order, it will be decided. But yes, if they complete the qualifying years of service, they would be entitled for gratuity. Even the retirees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we need to pay PF and ESIC for consultant who are engaged for specific assignments and are paid consultancy fee?
No, true consultants are not considered to be employees. When we say true consultant, they are on their own, independent. Say, assume that I'm hiring an advocate or I'm hiring a doctor, right? So yeah, I will not make them subject to the rules and regulations of my company. They will not come to my company. But whereas in case if I require some consultation, then I will approach them actually. Right. So they are not working under my employer's supervision, which means they are completely independent. Right. So those persons will not be considered as employees. So they will not be entitled. See, that is why I'm saying using the term true consultants. If we are merely using the term consultant as designation, then I think otherwise if we make those persons subject to probably all the rules and regulations of our company, then they could become employees, then they may become entitled for the benefits if they are otherwise entitled.
Understood, sir. According to the new code, will overtime be calculated on wages, as in basic DARA or gross salary?
Not gross, as per the new definition only. So what is the wage portion in the monthly gross wage that needs to be ascertained? For that it is to be calculated, not for the gross.
Okay.
For those establishments which are covered under occupational safety, if they are covered under the respective states, Shops and Establishments Act, then as per the provisions of those legislations. Yeah.
Okay. How to handle variable pay with the restructuring of wages under Code on Wages? I'll repeat again.
If the variable pay is paid on a monthly basis, then that should be part of monthly gross wage only, but it could fall under the exclusion part. Right. But my suggestion would be, it is better if we keep out of the regular payroll processing. Have a separate policy, and that payment should be done as per that policy, and it is not based on the payroll processing, or it is not emanating out of the contract of employment. If we can make it like that, then I think that will get excluded. We need not consider it even for determining the total remuneration, that is the 100% wages.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. We'll take one more question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is LTA an inclusive component of wages?
LTA, again, same thing only as I said for the previous question. If we are making the payment on a monthly basis, then the very nature, whether it is LTA, that would be questioned. That could be treated as part of wages instead of LTA, right? Better if you make the payment on a annual basis or once in 2 years, then definitely that will get excluded. That will not be treated as part of wages. There is a risk if you are making it on a monthly basis, that too along with the salary.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for delivering such a clear and insightful session. We appreciate the depth of clarity you had brought from the topics like social security benefits of PF, ESIC gratuity, maternity benefits, and even the industrial relations. We thank you for your knowledge.
Yes.
And also we thank you all the participants for engaging with this session.
Yeah. Thank you, Ma. It's my pleasure. And thanks to each and every participant and all the companies which allowed them to attend this series of sessions. I am enriched, truly. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.